Here are lots of people dressed for game shooting, on a game shooting estate, but they're not shooting game. And in some ways that's a pleasant change for shoot organiser Ollie Williams.
We're now sat at lunch, it's knocking on 3 o'clock and I'm not having kittens about the birds going to roost because the clays won't rear to roost until we tell them to.
Ollie runs the Cornish Sporting Agency, which books game days and increasingly simulated game days.
They're flying a little bit what I call aerial, so if you can flatten them a bit, that'd be ideal.
That's one leisure area into which estates are diversifying, and it has multiple benefits. Carter Jonas advises estates on how to do it.
They can keep control of it if they lease the rights in the way that they want to. They can keep some 2 or 3 days to themselves. They can still enjoy the benefits of the shoot without taking some of the potential negatives, if that is their interest. And then also, some have gone into it in a much bigger commercial way and run it in-house themselves, which can be a big business. Simulated shoot is definitely becoming really popular for lots of reasons. One of which is that you can do it throughout the year, and a lot of people do enjoy coming down and shooting, doing charity days, using the lovely grounds that you've got when they're sunny. Clay pigeons don't get bird flu.
Now, of course, whatever you do on the estate has to work for the estate, and the estate has a responsibility to the local community. The British Association for Shooting and Conservation hired an accountant to audit shooting sports in the UK and found that it is worth around £3.3 billion to the UK economy every year.
This is a sort of a 10-year review of previous research that we've done. And it absolutely highlights the economic, the social, the conservation value of shooting. And, maybe people, sometimes we take it for granted, people don't really understand those figures, but they're actually huge in the context of, the wider economy and land management. So it's critical for shooting that we get the message out about these figures. What we've tried to do is to get a better grip and a better handle on the wider employment figures for those involved in shooting, and not necessarily those in paid employment. So that's right across the piece. That's beaters, pickers up, all the ancillary things, like if you take your Land Rover to the garage to be fixed, that's a shooting related activity. So we've tried to incorporate those figures and tried to incorporate those employment figures. So on the whole, it's a much more positive figure sort of overview than it was 10 years ago.
Shooting provides environmental benefits too. It is one of the greatest producers of what land agents call natural capital. Shoots sequester carbon.
A lot of people in the country like to come out and like to see natural capital, and we all do like to see natural capital, whatever you call it, whatever you want to see. People do enjoy it, and so therefore I think if you're looking at the commercial sort of holiday letting market, then if you have got an estate that has got a lot of natural capital, rewilding, call it what you wish, that is actually a massive draw to come to the estate again, which could help support other businesses. So it does all link together, and you've got to work out what you're interested in, what the estate is best suited to do, and then make a plan and head down that route. And that might be taking 2 or 3 strands and focusing on them to the detriment of the others, because you probably can't do everything. You wouldn't put a solar farm next to the cottage, So, but if you've got a bigger estate, you can put it in different areas. So the land can be used for hundreds of things. And I always find it really interesting how much one bit of land can be used for 50 things. What do you actually use it for? Comes down to all manner of things, really. The interest of the owner, number one, which often is aligned with the financial return, but not always. What they enjoy, and everything else going on in the estate. It's got to work together, and you've got to stand back and take a bit of a view and make sure it works as a whole. These aren't sort of isolated assets; they are quite complicated.
We've looked at comparisons with golf. A golf course, it's actually quite a small area that's managed for golf. Whereas shooting, if we start looking at cover crops and the wider sort of biodiversity and conservation work that takes place, then I don't think there is anything that can compare. And that's positive, isn't it? We're enmeshed with farming, land use. I don't think there's any other sector that can actually come close to that. And we even looked at sort of Premier League football and how our sort of overall economic value compares to that. Premier League football is huge, but the size of a football pitch for a Premier League club is really small. So no, we don't think there's a comparison actually, and that's really helpful for us, because over the wider UK landmass, I think we stand out alone.
For Ollie in Cornwall, it's obvious. He has to attract shooting tourists to Cornwall in the winter. In the summer, they're already there.
How can we harness that 100,000 people, however many it is a week, during the peak summer months, that drive, and particularly your sort of Sloane Square on Sea, if you like, Rock, Polzeath, people coming down with maybe a bit of cash in their pocket, looking for something to do that maybe they shoot in the winters. And essentially what we're trying to create here is as close to simulated game as possible. So second drive, a couple of the guys turned around and be like, I know what the partridges are like here, and actually with those banking clays coming in, it's very similar to that.
If you want to know more about how shooting and natural capital can improve your estate, you can meet Carter Jonas and BASC at the Game Fair, the 26th to the 28th of July 2024 at Blenheim Palace.